going into the microscopic view, alright? So, can anyone tell me this part? Premaxilla. And then this part that bears the majority of the teeth? Maxilla. Okay. And then this part? Frontal. Be directly behind it. Parietal. And then let's not forget our sutures. Sagittal. This one here? Coronal. This bone here plus this part here and this part here. That's occipital. This part here that forms the ridge between the parietals. Interparietals. Alright. And then, so this structure forms a crest. What is the name of this crest? Nuchal crest. And then, let's see. There's a hole here. Can anyone tell me what this hole is? Foramen magnum. And these are there are two of them. Occipital condyles. And this form the articulation with the atlas. Perfect. So, where's my atlas? Is this the atlas? No. That's what? Yes, that is the atlas. Is this the atlas? What is so distinguishing about it that it's the atlas?
It's got wings on the side.
It's a ring, and it doesn't have a centrum. What is the centrum? Can someone point out the centrum for me here? Yes, exactly. This is the centrum. Okay? This is the centrum. Clear? Okay? So this is the axis. This is the atlas. The atlas articulates with the occipital condyles. And the axis is the second one. It has a dent which articulates with the atlas this way. Alright? Clear? So, does the axis have a centrum?
Yes.
Yes. The atlas is the only one that does not have a centrum. Okay? So, going back to the cat. So, this is the orbit. So, this one right here is lacrimal. So, the lacrimal is always associated with the tear ducts. So, it's found right here. Okay? Pretty self-explanatory. So, let's do the sphenoids. So, when you're doing the sphenoids, let's start with the easiest one, basisphenoid at the base, right here. And then you'll be able to see a suture, which is a thin, skinny part going right up. So that forms your presphenoid. Okay? Your alisphenoid is this part right here. You see 4 holes, right? The alisphenoid is where the last 3 holes are, and it extends all the way into here, forming kind of like a keeping the presphenoid between them. So the alisphenoid runs all the way from here, extending into here, and it surrounds the presphenoid and it surrounds the presphenoid. So it's kind of like an alley going inside it. So that's how I remember it, the alisphenoid. Right here, going all the way in here. Really skinny, but if you look carefully, you can see the sutures. The orbitosphenoid is where the most anterior hole is, and it surrounds the portion around it. That is where the orbitosphenoid is. Is everyone clear about the sphenoids? Yes? Yes. So, this part is still considered the premaxilla. And then the maxilla, you can see the sutures here again. This is the maxilla. Directly behind the maxilla, you have the palatine bones, right here. And what are these sharp things? Perfect. Those are your pterygoids. Your internal nares, the holes right here. And let's not forget the teeth as well. what incisors, canines, premolars, molars. Okay? Okay, so now let's do the complicated part. What is the name of this hole? External acoustic meatus, also known as the external auditory meatus. Either one is correct. So, this one, tympanic bulla, and over here there's a thickened ridge right outside the external acoustic meatus. This is called the tympanic bone. Okay? This whole structure, zygomatic arch, comprised of what bones? The zygomatic bone is the anterior part. This one? Yes, it's the squamous portion of the temporal bone. Alright? This part here is just known as the plain old temporal bone. So, okay. And this part here, the structure is tympanic bulla, correct? But the bone that forms it, if you read on your lab assignment sheet, it describes everything. It's the bone here is the endotympanic bone. Okay? So the whole structure is the tympanic bulla, but the bone that forms it is the endotympanic bone. So what's that? Yep, that's the ridge. That's the ridge outside here. Yeah. This is the endotympanic bone. The structure is the tympanic bulla, but the bone that forms it is the endotympanic. Okay? Whereas the tympanic bone, you're not going to be able to see it. You have to read it in the description. Alright. So this part here, from here, the squamous portion of the temporal bone, this part here, and this part here, they're all temporal bone. So the temporal bone is comprised of three portions: the squamous portion, the petrous portion, which is the part inside the external acoustic meatus, and the tympanic portion. Okay? Now, individual bones form the portions themselves. So, for example, the tympanic portion, you'll be able to see this in the square that you're supposed to memorize. So the temporal bone is made up of three portions. The petrous portion will be the mastoid process and the bones of the inner ear, meaning that, and there's one bone inside it, it's called the petrosal bone. So all of that forms the petrous portion. On the other hand, you have the squamous portion, the portion right here, which forms the posterior part of the zygomatic arch. That is the squamous portion of the temporal bone. Then you also have the tympanic portion, which is this part, made up of two bones, the endotympanic and the tympanic bone. Clear? So the whole bone is the temporal bone, comprised of three portions: the squamous portion, the tympanic portion, and the petrous portion. Okay? And making up the portions themselves are the small individual bones. So if I ask you what bones make up this portion, then you know the answer would be like something small, like the endotympanic or the tympanic bone. If I ask you though, what portion of the bone is this, then you need to answer me like squamous portion, is it the tympanic portion, is it the petrous portion? And then moving on with the lower jaw, you have the coronoid process, condylar process, and I think that's about it that you have to learn for the lower jaw. Is there any questions for the cat? Okay.